Welcome to the Redemption Podcast with your hosts, Staci
and Juliah.
Welcome to episode 2 of episode 4. No, welcome to part 2. Welcome to part 2 of episode 5.
Part 2 of episode 4.
Take 3.
We're back.
We're all still here.
We're back.
You can do this.
This is part 2. Does that work?
Roundtable discussion.
Yes. Okay.
The wild and wise roundtable.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is part 2 of Wild and Wise. We have been having a great discussion in our last episode. And in our last episode, we were discussing the essential steps of self-respect. And Julia read off 12 wonderful steps of how we can respect ourselves. And this leads into relationships and how we deal with the relationships when we're feeling worthy about ourselves, right? And so today, Patty is going to read from a book about relationships. Patty?
Okay. This is from a book called The Mastery of Love by Miguel Ruiz, who also wrote The Four Agreements, one of my favorite books.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so this is what it says. You know the kind of man or woman that you want, the one who makes your heart sing, the one who is aligned with the way you are, the one who loves you just as you are. Why set yourself up for something else? Why not get what you want?
Yeah.
Why pretend to make someone fit when they don't? It doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you make a choice and say yes or no. But you love yourself also. You make a choice and you are responsible for your choices. Then if the choice is not working well, you don't blame yourself. You simply make another choice. But let's imagine that you get a dog and you love cats. You want your dog to behave like a cat and you try to change the dog because it never says meow. What are you going to do with the dog?
Get rid of it.
Get a cat.
Yep.
This is the only way to begin a great relationship. First, you have to know what you want, how you want it, and when you want it. You have to know exactly what the needs of your body are, what the needs of your mind are, and what fits well with you. There are millions of men and women, and each one is unique. Some will make a good match for you, and some won't make a good match at all. You can love everyone, but to deal with a person on an everyday basis, you will need someone more closely aligned to you. That person doesn't need to be exactly like you. The two of you only need to be like a key in the lock, a match that works. Mm-hmm. You need to be honest with yourself and honest with everyone else. Project what you feel you really are and don't pretend to be what you're not. It's as if you're in a market. You are going to sell yourself. And you are also going to buy. In order to buy, you want to see the quality of what you're going to get. But in order to sell, you need to show others what you are.
Yeah.
It isn't about being better or worse than anyone else. It's about being what you are. Yay. If you see what you want, why not take a risk? But if you see it's not what you want, you know you're going to pay for it. Don't go around crying, my lover abuses me, when it's so clear for you to see. Don't lie to yourself. Don't invent in people what is not there. This is the message. If you know what you want, you will find it is like your relationship with a dog, but better.
Oh, that's great.
That is good. Thank you, Patty.
Yes.
You know, we're either a powerful person or a powerless person.
Yeah.
You know, and their behaviors. So sometimes I act in a powerful way and sometimes I'm not so powerful.
Okay.
And so in a relationship, there's 3 types of relationship. There can be a powerful person and a powerless person, which means, let's start with powerless and powerless, which is 2 victims who do not know themselves, do not know their worth. They're either controlling or being controlled or resisting to get their needs met. They're needy people. Mm-hmm. Then there's a powerful and a powerless relationship, and that's the epitome of codependency. So you've got one dependent and rescuing, and that says, I'll work I'll work harder on your life than you're going to.
I can fix you.
Yeah, and I need to be big and powerful and the king of the roost or queen of the roost. And I will raise you up to look like me. Or there's two powerful people who are free to make their own choices and each person being responsible for their own decisions. It's not your job to manage me, and it's not my job to manage you. So you're able to exchange truth without offense. You got to protect the connection. So that's a good way to think about yourself. Am I being a doormat? Am I being controlled, or am I pouncing on that other person? So that connection of being able to ask, how are you experiencing me? I know my kids use that in their weekly date that they have. They're asking that.
Oh.
I think it's the epitome of being vulnerable. Is being able to say, let me know how I'm doing. How am I doing in these areas that we're trying to work on? It's maintenance, good maintenance.
When you don't do maintenance for a while, things can get...
The stuffing that you stuff down goes, yeah. So what happens if you're in a relationship, you guys, a relationship that maybe is not working out for whatever reason? You can say that right now. What haven't we maintained, or what red flags did I not listen to, or whatever. But here we are in a relationship that is not working out well. Maybe I was raised in a dysfunctional home that I never got the examples of how to do a relationship. Or you put two imperfect people together, and you come with two sets of rules from the family that you've been raised with. And that's just always when you get together, you're dealing with what works, what
patterns.
Patterns, and how are we going to make our own patterns together? Ones that we like. What are we going to get rid of? And it's something else.
Well, how do you even start that conversation when, let's say, you've been in a relationship for a long time and you have never had a conversation like that before, or you're going to you want to kind of go into uncharted territory and bring stuff up?
One of my favorite sayings is, are you led by love or are you led by fear? Because I know for myself, I used to be a very powerless person, and I would freeze for fear of being wrong, fear of being rejected, fear of feeling stupid. You name the fears, I had them, and just too afraid to be me because I'm probably not going to be liked, or I'll appear stupid, and I need to be loved. And so it's all of that keeps us from that. But I know that I hit a plateau when I started really working on that in myself and saying, all right now, that was my question I made it my purpose to say, what do I have to lose? I've got to let this person know me. I've got to let the other person know what I need, what I fear, what I want, what I'm afraid, all of these.
Who I really
am. Yeah. So even if it's in the middle of a relationship and you're further down the road and you go, man, this is not working out, you start with yourself. You start with that self-awareness. You learn who you are and what you want, and find your voice, because you've got a voice that can make a choice. And often you're in a relationship there, you're not being respected because you're not respecting yourself. And so on the other side, you might have a person frustrated with you because you're not being a powerful person and not a person to be respected. So here we start. And what kind of a relationship could that be at that time? It could be very volatile. It could be abusive. It could be what? Come on, you guys, join in
Well,
here.
to me, it's not too late to find your voice.
There
I am
you go.
in my 50s, and I'm just finding my voice to where if I want to say no, I can say no and not feel bad about it with my boundaries, you know, and to know that I'm worthy of that and to say no, I'm worthy not to be a doormat and to be controlled and do as I'm told. But I have dreams, I have wants, I have, you know, a vision for my life, and finding that voice and expressing that. So, I mean, it's never too old to start this or too young. I wish I found this when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Life would have been so much more different, right? So I think this is an important conversation, especially for young people. Like, you don't have to wait till you're in your 50s
Really?
or 60s to
Yeah,
find.
don't.
Yeah, right.
Don't
you know?
wait.
No.
And you don't have to, and you don't, both of you need to know about each other, you know, in our relationships. Ask the other person about themselves too. It's because the more you know about a person, the more what a guy needs respect and a woman needs love, and that makes the world go around, or the wheel go around of a healthy relationship. That's one of the marriage books, love and respect.
Okay.
But to a man, often they say love looks like respect, and to a woman, it's really the love and the nurturing and more the that sort of a thing. But in both ways, it's love and respect. You know, it's knowing each other and listening to each other, and not
being afraid to use your voice.
Yes.
You know, not being afraid of some kind of response that makes
Yep.
you just shrink and run, or, you know.
That's the fear thing.
Yeah. Oh,
And if you're in a relationship where you have used your voice and you have gotten that kind of response, then it just makes, you know, you either, the fear thing, you just shrink, you know, which I spent many years doing. Or, you know, and what helped me was to take care of myself physically, you know, like, for myself, I started eating. You know, I gained a whole bunch of weight, and it was like a coat, a big coat that's going to protect me or something, you know. But when I realized, when I realized how sad I was, and how, you know, I didn't even want to live anymore, you know, and I took control of my own health. That's what really turned the corner for me, to build up myself, because once I built myself up physically, I was able to stand for myself, and I was able to use my voice.
I wanted to add something to what Julia said about how do you have that conversation with your partner. It's funny that you all are talking about that this week, because Thursday it'll be 5 years of me and my wife being together.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
but we just got married in August, and I feel like over the years we both communicate really well. That is probably maybe the number one most important thing to me in any relationship, whether it be romantic or personal or a coworker, is that I'm able to communicate well with that individual. And a lot of my conflicts come up when I'm not able to communicate with someone. So over the years, we were pretty good about having conversations about, you know, if we got married, what would this look like? What would this look like? How am I making you feel? How are you making me feel? But I will say that probably a week and a half or 2 weeks before we got married, our pastor who married us sent us out a handout that had a whole bunch of questions. And normally you're supposed to do it with the pastor, but we ended up having to do it with just the two of us because he lives in Anchorage and we weren't able to make it into Anchorage before people started coming up for the wedding. And so we sat down at dinner for probably 2 hours and just went through each question individually.
So
and
good.
how they pertained, and all the questions pertain to what does this marriage look like, and what do each of us expect in that relationship? And even with us, even with myself and, I believe with her, thinking that we were pretty well versed on what all the answers to those were, just having that guideline for what our relationship needed to look like from both sides was so incredible, especially in the context of it being right before we got married. So I would say the best way to have that conversation with your partner, and not just necessarily in like a romantic partner, but any partnership, whether it be a friend or a coworker, is just to have some sort of guidelines going into the conversation that will drive the conversation forward. Because I think that was the number one thing that got us prepared to take that next step in life. And I think that what all of you are doing today with like the 12 steps of self-worth and the conversations that you guys are having today is a big part. Like that can be your framework. I would encourage anyone listening to this to look up these resources that hopefully I'll have done my job and linked to in the descriptions, and have those conversations with your family members or with your spouse or with your partner, because I think it makes a big difference for sure.
Wow, I think that's
great.
so cool.
So, Isaac, I am curious as to what was in those guidelines, because is it like, what is your vision? What are your values? What are your, how many kids you want? Is that all a part of it?
I think it was less about what are your values, how many kids do you want, because, and this is myself talking, but personally, I think that that's conversations that you need to have well before, you're engaged. And we had those conversations before that point. But this was more of just a reminder. And I think the biggest thing that I took from it, which is something that I believed before, but that really reinforced it for me, is what do each of us as the man in the marriage and the woman in the marriage want? And it came back to that love and respect thing that Lynda just was talking about that made me think of it, is everything that I want out of our marriage has to come down. It comes down to, do I feel like I'm respected in this situation? Do I feel like the effort and the sacrifice that I put into this relationship and into my work schedule and into life is being perceived by my spouse, and that she appreciates me doing that? And in the same vein, if I am not putting in that work and not, and this is a very traditional outlook on the roles of the man and the woman, but what we both believe and what we discussed was the reason why my spouse in that relationship respects me is because that she knows if it came down to it, that I would be willing to sacrifice everything to ensure her safety, including laying down my life. You only get respect if you're willing to sacrifice everything that you are and everything about you in order to ensure that she is protected. And then because of that knowledge, and because I'm doing, in theory, and not always, and not perfectly, because I'm not a perfect individual, but because I'm receiving that respect, it makes it that much easier to make her feel loved and supported in the relationship, because she knows and she sees that I am going out of my way to have conversations with her about how she's feeling, and to support her when she's not feeling all right, and to do things that are going to show her with my words and actions that I care about her. So I think it was more about that more than just like how do we manage our bank accounts and how many kids do we want, which is important. And there was a little bit of that in there. But I think the most important thing is that both you and your partner feel both loved and respected. And then I think that everything else from there, the questions of, how are we going to manage our bank accounts, and, who's going to do what, who does what chores on this day. I think if you have that base, then all of that comes easily. That's a long answer to a short question, but I just got so much out of that conversation. I think more than any other conversation we've ever had, that one with those guidelines did the most for our relationship as we prepared for that next step.
I think with a lot of our clients here in empowerment classes, I'll often, well, not often, I haven't done this in a long time, but given out a little checklist that because due to the fact that a lot of the kids have come from such a lot of trauma in their homes and high ACEs scores and just so much dysfunction and abuse that they don't know what a good relationship looks like. And so being able to ask questions, there's a checklist that will say stuff like, this is a little handout that I have for women. So it'll say stuff like, do you have your freedom to come and go as you want? Can you handle your own money? Do you get yelled at and called names? Stuff like this that they just go, well, that's a normal for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's I was always treated like crap, and so what does that And being able to gently say this is not okay. This is totally
You're worthy of more.
that is not love, and that is not respect. And so having it be a teaching tool, I have lots of those lists. They're in the Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's a whole other conversation,
That's a
I
whole
think.
nother, but it's a good one to ask that, to pull out, for our gals again, to talk about dating and to talk about what do I want? Because it's a good time for you right now is to be going, what do I want? What would a good relationship look like? It's okay to write that stuff down because I have the power to say yes and no what I'm going to allow in my life.
Right.
Relationships is like tending a garden, your garden, and you get to decide with this fence. This is kind of moving into boundaries.
Yeah.
I have this fence around this garden, and I want it to grow and just be healthy, and I can feast off of. But what am I gonna let in this garden that will help it grow, and what am I gonna not allow in the garden to grow? And so I'm responsible for my yeses and my nos. And you, my friend, my mate or my fiance, or you get to decide that for your life, and we need to talk about that and know that about each other.
Does it line up?
Does it line up? Or is this just something that this is not gonna work for me? It's not gonna work. And as much as I value you as a person, I'm seeing these red flags. You were gonna say something.
No. Go ahead.
Well, and then when you realize that, okay, we don't line up, I still have love and respect for you, but we don't line up. That can be a peaceful thing. That can end a relationship on a good note.
Mm-hmm.
It can, where you're
Which
still
would
respectful.
be
Yeah.
preferable.
It's
You'd be
heart-wrenching.
so-
I've
it
been
is
there,
so
done that.
Heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching.
It's horrible.
Yeah. I was right up to getting married again years ago, and he was everything that I wanted in a guy. And some of the things that didn't line up, caused us to say, okay, we're going to let it go. And it still hurts. Yeah, it was a hard one. But Patty, I want to hear some more about you because you were in a relationship that was a rough one.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
What are some of the things that you went through? You gave us some steps that you took to work your way out of that. But what were some of the things that you just thought you needed to put up with?
I think I started out, I was a very carefree, wild
child.
and I love to travel and camp and do all kinds of crazy wild adventures. And but I was kind of ready to settle down. And then I met this guy that just kind of swept me off my feet. But so I made the commitment, and but it was like I just slowly started to shrink.
Oh, you lost Patty.
I totally lost. I didn't, by the end of 36 years, because I didn't believe in divorce, I was nothing. I didn't have a clue who I was. I was just a very sad, hurt, I had no self-worth. And so, I really literally just shrank. And so it took it, I couldn't stand up. I just couldn't. I had no strength whatsoever.
So it was like a powerful, powerless.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
And it just got more powerless for me, and I didn't want to rock the boat. I never wanted to do anything that would cause any kind of, situation that, and I was a very outgoing person, and like I would want to have people around all the time, and he didn't. And so I became just his person. And, and like I said, when it finally got to the point where I realized how, how damaged I was, and how weak I felt, I made a choice to pay attention to my own health, and I started taking care of myself. And by the time, within a year's time, I got to the point where I could say no more.
Yeah.
And it was a hard thing. It still is, but I feel strong. I'm more myself than I've been since I was your age, 24.
Wow.
That's when it started. So
Yeah.
I was 24.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm 75 now, so don't wait that long.
There you go.
Well, you started taking care of your body, which made you physically stronger. And then what did you start doing for yourself to kind of build up some self-worth?
I think it goes together, you just start feeling better about yourself. I'd gotten to the place where I hated myself. I just hated myself. And the more I took care of myself, the more I thought about myself. I became I respected myself, and I felt worthy of something, I felt worthy of my own thoughts and my own dreams, and, where I wanted to go. And I just became me again.
It sounds like you started learning what you were going to say yes to. I want this in my life, and no, this is what I don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where boundaries come in.
Yeah.
And I think we could have another whole episode on boundaries. And no, I really think this is super important for everyone, young people and old people, to learn how to strengthen your boundaries and how to stick to your boundaries. It's so important in life. And I would love to come back and have another episode just on boundaries. But for today, we're out of time.
Oh, no.
But this has been an awesome group, an awesome context. Thank you so much, Patty, for sharing. And you have just such a wealth of information, Lynda. Just thank you for all the work you do here for the youth and the women's empowerment. I get so much from you. I just think this group was just awesome. I really think we should do this a lot more often. I think people are going to get a lot from these episodes. So
I hope more than anything that people will come away just knowing that there is hope for you, no matter what state your relationship is in, there's always hope, and there's lots of tools available.
And sometimes you can repair your relationship.
Yes.
Sometimes you can go, but then you can get help, or
Yeah.
if both people are willing to get
Yes.
help,
Definitely.
and you can make something good out of it.
Beauty for ashes.
Yes.
Redemption.
Yes.
I will say that if you want to listen more about Lynda and Patty's personal stories, that they both gave there's probably about an hour for both of them detailing all of their whole life and their relationships and how they came out the other side. So you
70
can go
years
back
worth.
and listen
Oh my
to those
God.
episodes. And yeah, I'm just so appreciative of everyone packing into the studio today. I had so much fun just listening, especially to everyone talk about the subject matter. And I would love to just do this once a season.
Yes.
Because I just, it's so empowering just to be in the room and to hear what everyone has to say about this. It's like sitting in on women's empowerment
Yeah.
class.
There you
It's
go.
a little glimpse of
It's a
what
good place to hang out.
goes on.
We
here
are
with
the
Lynda and
empowered
Patty.
women.
Yeah.
We
So,
are the empowered women.
And the more you hear it, the more it becomes a part of you.
That's
Yes.
right.
Like you need this sort of on a regular basis to
Yes.
like that reinforcement.
And to
as
not
well.
be afraid of it. Love yourself. Don't be afraid to grow and to let people know how beautiful you are, because we're all imago Deo. That's how you say it. Imago Dei. We're all the image of God, every single one of us. And so the more we know ourselves and can build ourselves to be the best me and you that we can be.
Because I'm the only me and you're the only you.
That's
And,
right.
yeah. So
And it's beautiful. It makes the world go round.
It is. It is. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you leave today feeling extra loved and that you know that you are worthy of your self-respect and your boundaries. So please remember, if you or someone you know are a victim of sex trafficking, please call 1-866-733-7878 or text HELP to 233-733. For local services here at my house, you can call 373-HELP. That's 373-HELP. Remember, if you see something, say something. This is Redemption, loved and thriving. Until next time.